Hey guys, it's Chris with Drop Dice, and today I wanted to do a video response because I've seen this question come up relatively often. Most recently, Sam DiMercurio from the Absolute Tabletop group brought it up. And in his original post, it says, "I just realized I've not been in a campaign that's lasted more than 5 sessions. Now I'm starting to realize why I advocate for short campaigns. Still, it seems a little bit sad." So online play is kind of a double-edged sword. It's good and bad in certain ways, and I want to talk about why it's so hard and why it's kind of baffling to a lot of players like myself that started on, playing face-to-face in a group with people at home, and that's how a lot of people got their start. But there are people in the community that nowadays, because we've grown so much and we're online, that their real experience of learning any system whatsoever has come from online play. And I think there's a couple of things that we can point out as far as like differences and what may increase your odds for finding the right group is. So the first thing that I want to talk about is my beginning group. The group that I learned with was a bunch of guys that we were in high school together. We had similar interests, and we wanted to play this game, Dungeons & Dragons. One of us had the experience. We went over to his house, and there wasn't a whole lot of options as far as like people to play with. And as weird as that sounds, it's a good thing. I think one of the hardest things about playing online is there's so many options of who to play with, and so a lot of people, they may not necessarily understand their play style, and so when they begin playing with other people, they play with just a multitude of different people. The communities are great, but when you have 5,000-6,000 people inside a group, the group of players that pull to play games, usually out of that 5,000-6,000 member base, it's usually about 20 to 30. But that's 20 to 30 people that you rotate in and out for games with, and you play different things that different GMs are advertising, different genres and things like that, and there's a whole plethora of options. But what I think ends up happening is players get enticed, and it's kind of the short attention span type thing. Like, I remember my first gaming group, we'd spend like a year or so on a campaign playing every single week. And the frequency of playing definitely helped us out in keeping us interested in the story and pushing it forward. We thought about it and discussed it on like our free time, which you could definitely do with an online group, and I would encourage, if you want to do a longer type of campaign, that you would do things like that. But the part that was really weird as far as making the transition to online play for me, as a person who is until age like 26, played face-to-face all the time. I am used to players that it's every week on Sunday we go and we do it, or every week on Saturday, or whatever the case is. We pick a single day, and it's an every week thing. We make dedication to it. It's our time to hang out. It's a social event. When we get together, we're not coming together to play a game 100% of that time. We get together for 6-8 hours, and we play for 4, but we also eat, we chat, we hang out, we're friends. I think part of the issue with online games is a lot of times it's not friends, it's acquaintances, and that makes it less committal. And I mentioned this to Sam inside my response, is it's harder to say, hey guys, I'm not going to make it, to a group of friends than it is to say, hey guys, I'm not going to make it, to a group of acquaintances. While I can say that I am friends with some of the people inside the group, I would characterize most of my interaction with a lot of Absolute Tabletop as acquaintances. Like, some people know some personal things about me, but not very many know as much as like the guys who play L5R with me. And that group of guys, if I have to cancel on them, I honestly feel really bad for it. If I have to cancel on a game that I set up through Absolute Tabletop, or I get canceled from a game that's in Absolute Tabletop, it's one of those things that it registers in my brain as, oh, that sucks. Hopefully I can get together with these guys and do something else. And the difference is, when I cancel a game with the guys that I normally play with, it's not, that sucks, maybe we can get together to do this. It's more like, well, shit, that really sucks. Man, what am I going to do today? I was really looking forward to this game. all right, guys, let's figure out when we can get together again and try and play, because I really want to push forward this story. I'm loving the game. And I don't get that effect. It's not as committal as a face-to-face game or a group of friends playing a game. So if you want to improve your online games, one of the things that I would recommend is improve your friendship with those people. Now, I mentioned that the group of people that I started playing with, there wasn't a whole lot of choice in who I could pick with players, and so the plethora of player options out there, it can be a little bit detrimental to us. If you play with the same group of 5 guys or 4 people or whatever the case may be, you begin to adjust your playstyle to that group. Like, you still have your playstyle, but you might make some like give and play with it. Like, if you play with Tim Kearney plays a game where he is the dungeon master in a very distinct way. And if you look at the players inside that group, the normal absolute tabletop guys, they adjust the way that they tell their story. It's a little bit more of a reserved kind of play style. Whereas if you watch them in the Provokers, it's a little bit more of a high adventure, yay, have fun, and there are dramatic moments, but for the most part, it's an upbeat thing, whereas Dragon Grin's a lower beat thing. And a little bit has to do with the setting, but a little bit also has to do with who are the players in that game, who makes up each one of those. When you take Tim out of the equation, what you're left with, those people that are there inside a darker setting, produces a certain tone. And the reason I bring up Absolute Tabletop is that's a group that a lot of people inside the community are familiar with. You can see how their playstyle has evolved to match each other. And that's something that you possibly won't get with shorter campaigns. Like, the real reason that shorter campaigns work out online is they are less committal. So if I say, hey players, you want to do 4-game run of Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to start at level 5, we're going to go to level 8 by the end. Players are more likely to agree to a 4-game run than, say, a campaign that has no real end date in mind. In most cases, just because it's not as much commitment. And one of the things that I really don't like about interest posts online is, and I try to avoid this, is when a GM says, I want to be flexible to the players. And I know that the GM says that because he wants to get a certain type of player inside there, or they're interested in getting some people to sign up that maybe have tighter schedules. But at the same time, I would rather have a GM tell me, I'm only available on Wednesday nights from this time to this time, than to basically sign up for a game and then find out that all the people I'm playing with, the only person I can match is this one guy, and then every other week I can match another guy. It's a little bit of a problem. I would rather have a GM pick a time and then the group has to cater to the GM, simply because it makes a lot of sense. Another thing about interest posts that make online gaming kind of difficult that you could watch to try and improve yourself and your own games is time zones. Time zones are very hard for players to get right. I've mentioned this before. It's my opinion that we should probably go to Zulu time, because Zulu time is a time adjustment of 0. And what I can do is, I know I live in Central Time Zone. I know what my adjustment is. I can add my hours to Zulu time and know exactly what time that is. It's the easiest way to do the math, because once you start doing, okay, it's Eastern, but I live in Western Europe, and my time difference is 7 hours, it starts getting really weird, which is why I like Zulu time, because the only time zone that matters when you look at that is your personal time zone. I don't know that that's going to catch on, personal preference, but that's probably because of the military. From there, another thing that you can really do to bring your games closer to like an at-home type of feeling is something that I originally wasn't a big fan of, but I'm starting to become a fan of. If you watch a channel called ItMeJP, they do Banter for the first 30 minutes of each show. And the show is a 4-hour show, and 30 minutes, well, 3.5 hours of game, 30 minutes of banter. And the banter establishes a personal relationship between the players, and the crowd that's watching. And so what I've noticed is sometimes there are shows that come on that the only reason I'm watching it is because I like Adam Coble. I think he's a pretty good player. I really like seeing him as a GM because he comes up with some funny stuff. I'm not a very good comedic GM, but Adam does a very good job of it, and I find the jokes to be like right up my alley as far as comedy is concerned. Well, because of that, when I see an Adam Coble game, I typically will at least check it out, even if I don't watch the whole thing. And that's one of the things that kind of comes out of that banter section. Like if I didn't establish a personal connection with him through the banter sections, even though I'm not necessarily 100% like interacting directly with him, I don't know that I would be as interested in his games. What the banter really does is establish those connections with the players since they are going back and forth. If you listen to Roll Up and Die's podcast, they do banter at the beginning of theirs, and it makes it feel like it's an organic conversation. You're talking to three guys that are friends, that are sharing concepts, and I think it really works. And it doesn't have to be in your game. If you don't like banter at the beginning of the games, what you could do is just do chats with your group. And encourage the use of a text chat or a voice chat, or just doing a Google Hangout, using Discord, things like that to establish a friendship beyond just we play a game together. I feel like when you set it up as we play a game together, it feels like it's part of my issue with like doing online RPGs like SWTOR. I really like them, but when I go on a raid feels like a job because I'm not really friends with a lot of the people in my guild. I'm acquaintances with most and then friends with a couple, and I really like doing raids with my friends because we get to chit-chat and BS, and maybe I get to know more about some of the other guild members, and maybe I'll consider them friends as well. But on the flip side, if I'm in a raid where it's just like the only person I really know is my buddy who got me in this raid because we wanted to do one and it's late at night and our guild already went to sleep, it's totally different. Like you don't really feel as involved. You don't really care if the raid fully succeeds. Like you probably do care since you want some of that gear, but at the same time it's not like a big deal since it's not your guild going out and doing it. It's kind of the same effect if it's not your group going out and playing online. Frequency is another thing that I've seen that can cause problems, and I'm guilty of it as well. Online games, it's very easy to prioritize your real life world around online games around your real life world, whereas a lot of times when you play in a game that is in real life, you play in that along with the rest of your real life stuff. And if you think about it as I'm planning my game night, and game night is a real life thing, not an online thing, which feels abstract, you'll probably give it more priority so that you can make those games and not have to cancel or realize that your plans might be janky. With that said, guys, I am clearly losing my voice, but you kind of get the gist of what my thoughts are. I really like the idea of online gaming just in general. It's provided me a chance to play with my friends that are halfway across the country, so I'm a big fan of it. I just think that if you are going to do it, there are things that you can do to improve your chances of success, or at least your chances of creating a long-term campaign. And these are some of the things that I can think of. If you are watching this video, feel free to throw in the comment section anything that you think I might have forgotten, some tips or tricks that you do to ensure the success of your online games. One more that I just thought about is forum boards. We had a lot of success using forum boards in the past. I like them a lot because it allows you a chance to RP when you have a couple weeks between sessions, and that kind of goes back to the chat idea. So with that said, guys, thanks for tuning in, and as always, I'll see you at the gaming table.